All right, what's happening? It's Dean Delray. You tuned in to Let the Beat Talk. I don't even know what episode this is. Maybe 20 or something, 25, 30. I don't know. I don't keep track, but the sun is finally out here in LA. It's a little warmer. It's been cold as shit for like 10 days now. And I got a good guest over here today.
Real good guest.
Yeah, real good. JAMIE FLAM, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
Or some people call you Flom.
Yeah, Flam. I get a lot of different pronunciations.
FLAM. Looks like Flam to me.
It's Flam, but I get Phlegm, Flim.
Yeah.
On my own podcast, The Long Shot, it's become a recurring joke for all the hosts to mispronounce my name in any way they can possibly dream up.
Well, I eat a lot of flan.
I got that. I mean, I remember the day that we served, we had International Food Day in elementary school.
Yeah.
And someone brought flan, and the fourth graders had a field day with me.
Yeah. Okay, now let's get a little background on you. So you, the reason I want to have you on is you are the current booker at the Hollywood Improv.
That is right.
And me, I've been doing comedy 3 years. I get spots, but people always ask me, man, like, how do you get spots? You know, and it's got to be the funniest thing that people ask. But first of all, how did you get that job? How did you get into it? And stuff like that.
Sure. I've been at the Improv for 2 years, and I started at the Lab. The Lab was their small kind of side theater.
Yeah, that has no booze. It's just kind of like a little side thing.
And the history of that room was it used to be the Second City Conservatory, I think for like 10 years. So, Second City had classes, improv classes and shows there. And then when they moved out, I think 3 or 4 years ago, it kind of just existed as this space, and it had a really bad reputation from what I heard.
It did?
Yeah. It would have there's a couple of really cool shows, like the Walsh Brothers, these guys from Boston who are awesome. They did a show there that had a lot of hype and was supposedly really, really cool. But other than that, there was occasionally shows in there. The Improv wasn't giving the room a lot of love, so it was just kind of like, whatever's going on in there, just throw them a tech guy and hope for the best.
I remember the room as when I've been doing comedy 3 years now, so I remember like about the first year in, a buddy of mine, they would do like auditions in there.
Sure.
The girl Emily, I guess, and you would have to go down there and perform at like 4 p.m. in front of no one, in front of her.
Oh yeah, I did showcases in there last year, and actually, when we get a ton of people there, it's an amazing room.
I love the room.
But yeah, there were a couple showcases where the comics didn't bring anyone. And so there's 8 comics in a room, and you're performing at 6, 7 o'clock, and
they're supposed to be performing to try to get to work at the Improv, right? This one, when I went for the guy, he asked me to go. I was like, yeah, I'll go. And it was at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. Who's going to be able to go? You know?
That's tough. But yeah, before I got there, it was kind of like in this kind of dead zone of a year and a half where just not too much was going on. Not a lot of love was being put in the room. And I said the Hollywood Improv is this great room. So given my background, I'd been the artistic director and general manager of a theater in Santa Monica.
Which one? West
Side. Now it's called the West Side Comedy Theater.
Right. I love that when I do a Neil Brennan show on Sundays there.
It's an amazing theater and show. But yeah, I was the first employee at that theater, helped build the school there, helped put it on the map as far as a destination for comedy in LA. So given that, they brought me in to, bring some life to the room. Given that I've been in the comedy game for a while, I was able to bring in a ton of new shows. And within a couple months, it went from 1 or 2 shows a week to 50 shows a month.
Wow.
And
like 2 a night and stuff like that?
Yeah, 2 to 3 shows a night. And, it was a place where we could, develop talent. I was really big on building a community. I wanted it to be more than just a space. I didn't want to be a place where people just, rent it out. I wanted it to be,
right.
built, and especially I think
like a workshop.
Yeah. And so we had everything from, huge shows, Robin Williams and Sarah Silverman and David Spade did shows there, to up and comers and everything in between. But really to curate it and actually again just put some love into it. Like this is a really good space. And so over a few months, the community was built. They helped put some love as far as just the way the room looked and felt. Todd Glass, who's one of my comedy heroes.
Yeah.
A month or 2 in, he called me up, which was surreal. at the time and still is, and said, "Let me help you get that room looking good." And he came in there one day, and we bought in a bunch of lamps and put down a carpet.
It's got that living room vibe. It's so cool.
And put in a couple orange lamps. and good music.
I think there's a piano in there, or off to the left. What is that, like something in there off to the left? I guess it's just like a balcony and like table or whatever.
Well, there's a piano in there, and anyway, so that's how I got my start at the Improv, and that place really grew. Right now, that room is under construction. There's a lot of
that's what I wanted to talk to you about. That's fast forward, but we can get into that. So, out of nowhere, going around in the comedy community like 2 months ago. It was, the Improv's tearing out the lab. They're putting an umami burger into the front part, and you're going to enter through the lab now. All kinds of weird stuff swirls around. But what is this all about? Like, what's going on?
Well, there's definitely a lot of rumors, and it's all still up in the air. But, there's rumors that umami's coming in to take over the restaurant. It's up to speculation if that's actually going to happen. But the lab, as it's been described to me now, becomes a bar and entrance and more of a hangout room.
Right.
But
isn't the front bar that now?
That is what the front bar is. Right. And I would hate to lose that because it's such an amazing room.
Well, it's like legendary.
Yeah, it's
right?
legendary.
Since 77 or something? 76? When was that room going?
I think... even earlier than that, I think the early 70s.
Yeah, but then they had that fire and stuff. But that early, if you look at those photos, they're epic, like the ones where it says you're standing here.
Oh, of course, that photo. And who else is in that photo?
There's like Jay Leno, I think. And there's, I think, like someone else, Seinfeld. Oh, whatever. But it's like that bar is where everybody hangs out right now.
So until that construction is done, until we actually see what happens 2 or 3 months from now, I'm just going to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, so it's up in the air?
It is. I think they're trying to figure out. I'm in there trying to be an advocate for, some change. This is the legendary Improv, and I think over the years, it's still to me the best club in LA. It's still,
right.
It's the club that Louis C.K. wants to play, and big name acts come in there. But
Attell was there over the week.
David
Judah.
Spade and Judah Friedlander. just big names. It's still the Improv. That said, I think there's a comedy boom going on in LA right now.
There is,
and which is exciting. On any given night, you can go. There's 10 amazing shows in LA, and the club is still an important piece of the comedy world, but it's not what it used to be. It's still the best place to see a headliner at the Improv.
Yeah,
but during the week, when you can see a kick-ass show at a bar or or a UCB or a Meltdown or a small theater with all your favorite people for $5, $10.
Right.
And there's no drink minimum.
There's no drink minimum.
So I'm trying to, and, we'll see if it's falling on deaf ears or not, but get them to understand this. At least during the week, let's bring in that audience. Let's do cheaper shows. It's the long shot that we'll get rid of a 2-drink minimum, but...
Well, you got to pay bills, and the place is huge, and you got tons of employees.
Of course.
And you got, insurance and power. People think everything... I always laugh at people. They go like, oh, fucking 2-drink minimum. It's like, well, you just got in free.
Right.
You know what I mean? What do you mean? You just skipped 20 at the door, so... Why would you go out anyway and not have something to drink or whatever? Support the place you're getting in free, and you're seeing like Dave Attell.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like people, this isn't like Oklahoma, man. It costs $20 for a Heineken at a shitty bar.
Right.
So if you're paying 20 for 2 drinks and seeing like Louis C.K. pop in, which happens. It's not like once in a great while, Last week, Chris Rock, 3 nights at the store, you know? So it seems to me, since you've come into the Improv, it's great. Like I never liked the place before. It's true, because it just felt burnt. There was like the same fucking comics every week, and there was no one in there. And then all of a sudden you come in, and it's awesome,
Well, thanks. I'm coming in with a lot of passion, and that's not to say that people haven't been passionate before.
Well, they burn out.
But this is a position that, I'm a year into booking the main room, or almost a year, and it does take a lot out of you, and it's a grind, and it's a constant barrage of
how come you're not putting me on?
From everyone, and not just from comics, but from agents and managers,
right,
and production places, and so it just never ends. But I'm just so passionate about comedy and live comedy especially. And again, going back to like this boom that's going on, and I want the improv to be part of, the future. I want it, like, I think clubs as a whole aren't keeping up with really what's a lot of the exciting things that are going on right now.
Like in which way?
Just, that you can see things for cheaper, and things are innovating a little bit more too. Like, I still want the improv to be, it should be the best place to see stand-up comedy.
Right.
But I come from a theatrical background too, where I want it to feel like a nightclub vibe. I want more live music. I want house bands. I want
right, like old Bud Friedman style.
Exactly.
Right, where he had music and then he would have comedy and maybe a puppet show or whatever, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, more variety. And again, not every night, but especially if we do need to have that 2-drink minimum, if we do need to pay those bills, let's provide an experience unparalleled on any given night.
Now, I'm down with the smaller places, but I think the thing you get out of an improv, what a lot of people don't understand, is you get excellent lighting, you get great sound, you get some good seats. A lot of these makeshift places, it's like terrible metal seat. Right. A shitty little wood state, whatever. It works and it's hip and it's popular, but they burn up. You know what I mean?
No, I agree, and that's
a small market, young market. They're hot on comedy now, but next week they're at Coachella and your place is empty.
Right. I totally know what you're saying. And Rob Delaney, who's one of my favorite comics and who I've known for a long time now, in a big article for LA Magazine, just said that to him the improv is still like the ultimate performing experience. And I think a lot of people take that for granted, how much of a part that plays in your experience, like in the sound there and the intimate experience, the fact that there's a piano on stage, and those small details really affect how you consume your comedy.
Well, I think you're also going to take it more seriously. I take comedy seriously. I mean, I have fun, I dick off and stuff, but if I go to the improv, I'm not going to do the same thing I'm going to do at UCB.
Sure.
Because I respect UCB, but that's more of just a dick off place to me. You know what I mean? Compared to if I was doing the improv. You don't know who's going to be in the improv.
Right. Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think. UCB is a whole different animal.
Right.
But
I'm just saying, on the night they do comedy, not like
no. A lot of these stand-up shows, it is, and I think with a quote unquote alternative crowd or more independent show, you have a little bit more room to breathe as a comedian. You have a little bit more space to try out new things. Just because I think they are a little hipper to you, they're a little bit more bigger fan, and whereas at the club stage, it's like
they might not know who you are.
If you don't have a huge name, they're like, make me laugh immediately or go home. So, and that's that's what I have to groom a lot of comedians that have come up from the other worlds of comedy. Like in this place, it's like come out the gate swinging, and they're no less funny, but maybe like get to this part of the joke quicker, get to this part of the premise a little bit quicker. You don't have as much time to get. Yeah,
I think that's why sometimes you see alt comics kind of eat it in mainstream rooms because they're used to that kind of I'll get there, and then the audience is like, what is this? You know what I mean? It's different.
And I learned that the hard way, like because I've definitely come from more of an alt background, and the lab was that very much. And so my first couple months, like I put up some people, I'm like, oh, they're going to destroy.
Yeah.
And I was sat in that room, like looking at the audience, like, oh, they're about to love this. And then it never happened. So that was kind of the wake up call. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
This is different. And
also with alt too, some of the references, just regular crowds that aren't hip don't get. Like if I go into, let's say if I do like, if you do like Meltdown or you do M-Bar or something, you go in there, you could do some music references that are pumping right now and people are on it.
Of course.
You could do that same thing in the improv and people would be like, what?
No, totally.
Yeah.
And, part of it is trying to build a savvy audience too. And it depends on the show because, the audience is completely different when you have a promoter show on Tuesday or Wednesday night than it is when Louis is in town.
Absolutely.
When you have
Like Refried against Louis C.K. are completely two different audiences.
Well, because, there's the people that are savvy and they love comedy and they're going to see shows. And then there's the people that once or twice a year, they're like, let's go see comedy. And so they do a search on Google, the Improv comes up, or the Laugh Factory, and then they have no, conception of, they don't even see comedy on TV. So they show up in this place. They don't know who anyone is or are.
Yeah.
And, and so their expectation is completely different. And they just want joke.
Yeah. And they want like shit joke and fuck joke.
Right. And there's a place for that. And, I think, comedy is for everyone. But I'm of the, the thought that, like, especially the Improv, that was such a, instrumental part in the growth of what live comedy has been since the 60s and in New York. It should be on the forefront and should be innovating
right
as often as possible and getting the people that love comedy to be there every night.
So you, of course, like we said, you come from an alt background. To me, it just kind of seems like I don't call it alt. I call it either good comics or bad.
Yeah, for sure. I think I hate that word alt now.
Yeah, I do too, because I always tell people, if you label something, it's going to fucking get beat up later on. It's like, when you had like glam rock and then grunge came, all these labels that people need. It's almost like sports teams, which makes it stupid, because then it goes like, we don't like glam, we're into grunge. And then other people are like, we're emo. And you get all these dumb things. And then you go, well, actually, is it a good song or is it not a good song? That's how it is with comedy, and if you label something, eventually you'll get that backlash. Like right now, it's almost like everything is like, nerd this, nerdies, nerdist, nerd sandwich, nerd TV, everything, and after a while you're going to go, hey, fuck this, so if you label it too hard, instead of just calling it comedy, which I just call it, like I call Louis C.K. comedy, you know what I mean? Bill Burr, they're comics.
Oh, totally. And they the best comedians, will get fans from, and I've just started calling it more independent, and talking about these other shows and smaller shows, and that's more of an independent scene versus the big clubs.
Yeah, the machine against the not machine.
But and that's essentially what I want to do, and we'll have a better sense of how much I'm able to accomplish that a year from now. But it's bridging the gap a little bit, and it's not changing it, it's not making it anything more independent, but just I would say just bridging the gap between the independent scene and the club scene.
Right.
For LA. And that's different than every other club in this country. But LA and New York, LA is different than every other market, because on any night, not only are there 10 other great comedy shows, there's 50 other amazing entertainment options.
Oh, God, yeah. Concerts, movie premiere. We're battling everything. Sports teams that fucking win all the time, and people are watching playoffs. Everything's against us to get people out.
Totally.
It's crazy, man.
And that's why
I'm glad the Lakers are losing right now. That means, good. At the end of the season, we won't have 2 weeks of fucking no one at the shows.
Well, Clippers.
I know, unfortunately. But, you'll get the Clipper, bandwagon guys, but still, I think they'll go to the shows.
Totally. Well, then that's again why I think we're in a place where I want Improv to be doing something that's different and innovative and as often as possible, because you need to stand out. You need to be in LA. It's got to be a hip, cool thing for people to come out regularly. And
it's hard to be hip. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll put together a show once in a while and say you have T.J. Miller, you got a Pete Holmes, you got Bill Burr, whatever, and you put together this good show, and then the following week, what are you gonna do? Get the same guys? Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fuck. It's it's. I think it has to build a reputation, like Delray did or something, where it's just like, oh, okay, no matter what, we're going to see something good. And it also becomes a scene like the Spaceland nightclub when I first moved here. I lived behind Spaceland. It was just, who cares who played? You went down there, you knew it was going to be fucking good, but this is the hang.
That's consistency.
Yep.
And that's why UCB is successful, because, and it's also part of the curation, but they're putting time and energy to put in good shows, and it's a scene, and that's why in the best case scenario we can get that lab back, because that's what it was. It was building community, and trying to show the people, the bigwigs at the corporate clubs, like the importance of community. Like that's
right.
Making it a hangout in a place where we can develop comics, and that's a whole other conversation. But I want the Improv to be a place where we can develop comics.
It's hard to, though, right? I mean,
it's really hard.
So let's explain a little bit what goes down. We send in the emails. We tell you when we're available.
Mm-hmm.
This is if you're passed at the club. And then you typically say you only have about 8 spots, because what people don't know is you have these produced shows during the nights, and those producers have like 5-6 comics on. And then you sprinkle like 2 on each show?
It depends on the show. Some of the producer shows, like one of our biggest shows for the last few years has been Comedy Juice,
right? Which
is every Wednesday night. It's one of our better shows. They always have a great lineup, and it's a show that the big comics
love to do.
Jeff Ross will pop in, and David Tell, and a lot of the big names. They know Wednesday night's a good night to pop in. On that show, I book 0 spots.
0 spots.
Occasionally,
because it's going to be good.
When I know like Drew Carey's looking for a spot, I'll be like, "Hey guys,"
right? Like last week at Drew Carey, Judah Freelander,
mm-hmm.
and David Tell.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you're going to put them on.
Of course, and occasionally, like if I have to put someone on, but there's shows like that where I have 0 spots. For most promoter shows, they'll book a host and 3, and then I get to book 3 spots. And then during the week, if you look at our schedule, and this is what I tell all comics, I'm like, before you bombard me asking for spots, look at the schedule. Because on any given week, you'd be like, all right, we have Mobed on Monday, which is our like urban night.
Yep.
I don't book any
You're
spots.
not getting on that.
We'll have like a student show.
Like a showcase that one students. I host sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're
not getting on that. There's 25 comics.
There's Gays Are Us. There's Women Who Kill. There's these theme shows where I do book spots, but if you're a guy, you're probably not going to get on.
They're basically like maybe 2 shows a week you can really get some people on. Because Friday and Saturday you have like some headliners, right?
And then the headliners, some headliners I'll work with, and I'm like, I will book their entire lineup. Some headliners that are huge, like they're like, and I'm bringing these 3 people with me. And
right.
like, just like, great.
Yep.
So there's weeks where like, really, I get 8 to 10 spots, and that's before the favors start coming in.
Yeah. Like managers and stuff.
And that's part of the politics of the Improv, is that, we want to make these agencies and management companies happy with some of their smaller guys so we can get their bigger guys, not just for Hollywood Improv, but for...
Yeah, I understand. It's a full thing. I mean, I've been there 3 years. I've never been booked there. But that doesn't make me go, oh, fuck this place. That's just how it is. You know what I mean?
But you're also, you're very savvy, and you have made friends with a lot of the producer shows. So you get more stage time than
that's right.
a lot of people.
I mean, you can't look at one guy to get you the spots, The way I look at it is like, before I was passed at the Comedy Store, I did 5 spots a week there. Being passed isn't going to change your life. I always tell people, they go, man, you got passed. And it's like, yeah. And and I'm proud, man. I'm proud I'm passed at the store. It's the biggest thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that wasn't going to stop me from working. I'm still working in the room. I need the room more than I need the pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You need the stage time more than you need the recognition. The recognition feels good. Hey, you've been working hard. You're passed. That feels good. But at the end of the day, I need the stage time.
Of course.
So you got to find it.
Well, and for the record, just I think it's important to say, like, all these favors, I'm 10 months into this job, and I'm now taking a little bit more control, and like I'm learning, and this has been for me personally a major shift. I've always been, I'm widely seen as a really like one of the nice guys in comedy, but having artistic vision and integrity, and I'm really trying to bring that to the table. I'm learning to say no, which is one of the toughest things in the world. Learning how to say no, and understanding that now, my philosophy now is that saying no to certain people, whether they're not ready yet, or saying no to this company that really wants this favor, is also saying yes to that integrity, and saying yes to I do have an artistic vision.
You got to have it. I think a lot of people, why they bought Rick Rubin's records on Def Jam or Def American, was you knew what you were going to get. So if you have this reputation later on of, okay, well, I know Jamie's there, so it's going to be a good show. That's what you want. And when you start doing too many favors, it turns into a turd. And then they go, the guy just,
Right. And I want that place to be rocking every night. And so that's been a major shift. And I've always, wanted to do the best I can. But, it takes some time to kind of learn the landscape of club booking.
Hell yeah, you do.
And, I'm proud of everything that's happened in the last 10 months. But moving forward, it's like the bar is going to continue to rise.
Right.
And
how about your own night? Why don't you just do your own night? Oh, yeah. You got to take a piss? Go ahead.
You just talk about it on the
line? Okay. I don't care. Let me pause for a minute. He's pissing. Okay, we're back in action. You went and took a piss. So anyway.
So much better. You have a really lovely bathroom.
So, why don't you produce your own show? Like one night and have just a an insane show? That
is the plan. And starting hopefully by this March, because we don't have, a show to hang our hat on as far as like just a weekly. We have these produced shows.
Yeah, like a showcase show, like a night.
But you're right. We do need our own show, and so that's what I'm working on now. A killer show because I'm a producer first and foremost, and but booking and like I said, live music. So the show I want to really bring is a sense of my favorite word is enchantment.
Yep.
But an enchanting show that's an experience, and there'll be a house band and. Stand-up will be at its core, but, it will be a show that will be open for character-based pieces and storytelling and all sorts.
Just a variety show, kind of, right?
Absolutely, variety show.
Like an old school, like that's what I loved about Johnny Carson back in the day. You get a great comic, you'll get some cool actors, and you'll have some fucking weird-ass animal act,
Animals are key. Enchantment.
Yeah, like a fucking tiger trainer.
Mm-hmm. That's the future of the improv, by the way. Yeah. Tigers and kangaroos.
So, when is the lab? I saw the lab. Mm-hmm. It looks totally different. It looks like they've made it into like a kind of a nightclub thing. You can see where the bar is being built and stuff. So that's kind of Mach 1. That's already happening. So the lab is gone.
It's gone as it was before, but I think still everything's up in the air. To me, in a perfect world, it becomes a dedicated theater space again.
That'd be great.
That's not what's on the table right now. But even if it just becomes, a bar lounge, I think, again, bringing music acts, more of a lounge feel. And I think the blessing in the closing of the lab has been that it's allowed me to experiment with bringing some of those shows to the main stage.
Right.
And so in the last couple of months, some of the biggest shows from the lab have gone on to do midnight shows. We've even been doing 6 p.m. shows on Saturdays with improv and,
that's always
sketch
good.
And stuff like that. And it's been received really well. And, they're letting me experiment with like a 1-drink minimum for a later show. And so you're starting to see a more diverse crowd coming to a lot of the shows that they would never have come to before on the main stage.
What about, let's explain a couple things just in case some new guys are listening. So you have the open mic on Tuesday, and then you have a rollover show on midnight. How do both those work?
It's a fucking open mic, so you kind of know what to expect. But, it's a really popular one. So Tuesdays you show up at like 5:30.
Is there one on Friday?
And there's one on Friday as well that I hate to say I've never been to.
Yeah, I haven't either, actually. When I started comedy, it was on Tuesday only. And you go down, you sign up, right? And then they draw out of the bucket.
Yeah, and they pick 20 names. And
you find out in like 15 minutes if you're on or not.
Yeah, so the place gets jam-packed, and then it'll kind of deflate a little bit. But, and I'm trying to be at that open mic more.
Are you just to see guys? Like, because do you work at Levity too? Levity, like management?
That's like, Levity's the main company, and I work there. Actually, starting next week, I'll be at the Melrose, much more often. I'm there almost every single night anyway.
Right.
But now during the day, I'll be working out of there.
So you were working at Levity.
Levity
as like what, a manager, or what are you doing? Do you manage comics?
No. It's just they're the booking office for all of the improvs.
All of them is out of there.
Yeah, and so I work. The booking office is 3 people.
Right.
Essentially. And, I book Melrose, and the other 2 book the rest.
And who are the other 2 people?
Wonderful people. This woman named Erin and Katie. But
and they
Aaron's-
book the U.S. improvs.
Mhm.
Now, if you're like a headliner and you're doing all the other rooms, it's all just booked out of that one place, right?
More or less. I mean, the Improv is a franchise.
Right.
And
How many are there?
I think, don't quote me on this, but maybe 28.
And are they all buds or just a?
No. I mean, I can't even get into all that. It's like so convoluted. But some of them are owned by Levity. Some of them are not. Some of them are independently owned. I think like 90% of them are booked out of Levity.
Does Bud own any of them?
Bud, from what I know, books the Improv in Vegas.
Yeah, and Harris, right?
And
Reno.
and
Right.
Tahoe.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Yeah, wow. So, okay, so the open mics are Tuesday, Friday, and then a rollover show at midnight. I mean, it's you know, you can get a lot of stage time. That's 3 times in the Hollywood Improv, you know what I mean? It's better than doing some shit bar, you know?
It is. And then, you know, the community is growing. So like this past Saturday night, you know, midnight on a Saturday, it's called the rollover show just because, you know, like people can stick around that have been seeing shows all night. You know, the room ends up filling up with, you know, it's mostly comics.
Right.
But yeah, it was like, there probably like 100 people in the room and really fun vibe, and people get to work out some material. The stakes are a little bit lower and they can have
And it's
fun.
awesome. It's like the last spot of the night,
Totally.
you know, if you're out working. Also, not only comedy, but you love music. What kind of music you like? I know you love the Beatles, right?
Well, I grew up with, obviously, well, I didn't grow up with the Beatles at the time. I'm aging myself, but I was obsessed with the Beatles like when I was from 12 to 15 years old.
And why is that?
You know, I just got into them and was in a Beatles cover band when I was 14. We took second at Beatle Fest, which is the fucking Beatles conference that was held at the Westin Bonaventure downtown in LA.
And what'd you play? Which guy were you?
Well, I played bass.
You played bass. Yeah. So you were Paul?
I guess by instrument standard, I was Paul.
But did you sing?
No, I didn't sing. We have this kid named, his name is Gabe Witcher, and he was looking back, I mean, he was a amazing musician. Now he's in a band called I want to say the Punch Brothers,
Right.
who are a bluegrass band that I think they have a residency at Largo, and like he's doing a huge thing. So
Wow. So you guys were like a Beatles band, but not all the guys sang?
no, Gabe sang. He was our lead singer.
Oh, you just had like a regular lead singer? So you were basically a regular band, but you played Beatles songs.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What Beatles record's your favorite?
That's a good question. I mean, probably my favorite album is Revolver, and the White Album I love, and Abbey Road. I mean,
Right.
those
And
are probably my
what else? What other music though? At the time, you were like Beatles, and that was it.
No, I mean when I was way into fucking classic rock.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I mean, I think.
How old are you?
I'm 36 now.
Oh yeah, 36. So you like classic rock? That's good. You
Oh,
like good music?
I think so.
Yeah. No, I mean classic
I love
rock's
music.
good.
I listen to a lot. I mean, I think everyone when you hit 13 and 14, and I didn't experiment with pot until I was probably 16 or 17. But how are you not going to get into Zeppelin and Pink Floyd? Obviously.
Yeah.
But I was so obsessed with classic rock. There was a station, I don't think it exists anymore, but called KLSX,
Right.
97.1. And this was obviously before the internet. So as a kid, I was just listening to this station constantly. And every year at New Year's Eve, I think it was New Year's Eve, they would have like the top 500 classic rock jams of all time.
Oh yeah, I love that classic rock jams.
Exactly. And, you know, I would listen to this countdown nonstop. And I would write to KLSX, you know, it's before email, and just every year I would have them mail me just like a printed copy of the countdown. And then I would go through with highlighters, and this is so weird and
Yeah.
fucking obsessive. And first I would go through like with like a yellow highlighter, highlight every Beatles song. And then I would go with the pink highlighter, every Pink Floyd song, and then Zeppelin. Then I would count down, and I would like come
Who
up with,
won?
like the statistics, like who had the most songs, in the top 10. Fucking weird.
Yeah.
The Who, of course, like, you know, all the you know, usual suspects.
Did you see any of those bands?
I saw Paul McCartney
Yep.
in '89. I think that was my first
I
concert.
met Paul McCartney.
Really?
Yeah. Had it, you know, I traveled with the Stones. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 4 years. I was on the road with the Stones. I met Paul McCartney backstage.
That's amazing.
Probably the biggest guy I've met. I mean, I've met, well, of course, you meet the Stones and stuff, but I mean, guys you don't meet, probably ever, even if you're in the industry, are like Paul McCartney, because it is not out,
Right.
Jeff Beck. I met Jeff Beck. That's another guy you just went. I met Jeff Beck at the 101 Cafe.
That's amazing.
That's like guys you don't meet. But so you saw Paul McCartney at Coachella?
In 89? No.
In 89. Oh, shit, yeah.
No, I saw him at the Forum.
At the
Great
Forum.
Western Forum, yeah.
When his lady was still in the band.
Yeah, I remember, I was like, that was the first time I ever smelled pot, was in the audience of that show.
Yeah.
And I was with my parents, or my friend's parents. And I remember Linda McCartney on the keyboard, just like, giving peace signs everywhere. And I swore to God that she like looked us in the eye and gave us a peace sign. Of course not.
Yeah.
But one of the classic stories of my life was one day, right in the height of my Beatles obsession, I get a call after school one day. It's like 3 in the afternoon. I'm sitting at home, and I pick up the phone and I hear, "Hello, this is Ringo."
Ringo called you?
Well, yeah, and I was like, "All right, who is this?"
Yeah,
this is a big prank, and like, "Hey, do you have all my albums?" And I'm like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "No, this is Ringo Starr." And finally, on another line, my dad picks up the phone, and he's like, "James, this is Ringo. He's in my shop. My dad's a locksmith. He has a locksmith shop."
Wow.
And so Ringo had come into a store with like a producer friend. They were shooting some movie or some TV show or something, and they wanted my dad to consult them on the best way to open a safe.
Oh, man.
And my dad, God bless him, was like, actually had the balls. He was like, "Look, I know this is probably weird, but my son is a huge Beatle fan. If you can call him, he'll flip out."
That's amazing.
And I did flip out. As soon as my dad got on the phone, I reacted like I was at the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 and just screamed like a fucking little girl and ran around my house and totally blew like the conversation.
That's awesome, man.
But that was like one of the best moments of my life for sure.
So the Beatles, man, Don Myrere is a big Beatles fan.
I didn't know that.
Oh, God. Yeah, and I just tweeted this thing a couple of days ago, and it was the biggest retweet I've ever got, like 149. And it said, a lot of people ask me if I'm a Stones guy or a Beatles guy, and I tell them I'm a Zeppelin guy.
I love that.
Yeah, and that thing got mad retweets. But it's funny, man, that people are Beatles guys. Like, Beatles to me are, I got them all, of course, and I'm into them, but they just didn't have any danger, to me, and I like the danger. Like, I was into, of course, they smoked weed and did psychedelics and did Yellow Submarine and stuff, but I was into, like, Stones came around, and these guys were like, whoa, and then once Zeppelin hit, it was like, oh, no, this is the real shit here.
Well, I could talk to you about that for hours.
Yeah, totally.
There's fucking danger in the Beatles, come on.
There is?
John Lennon saying they're bigger than Jesus. That's a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Lennon became more dangerous post-Beatles.
I like Paul McCartney, actually, Wings. Band on the Run.
I think it's some great songs.
Jet, sure. Man, that shit. I remember I was young. I'd be at this fucking public pool, and they would play that Band on the Run, and I hear it now. It takes me right back to that public pool, man, in the summer, just looking at girls. You're like 13, like, whoa. But I love that shit. I think it was just later Paul just kind of got like, ugh, come on, dude. Now he's cool,
Yeah.
He rocks.
Sure.
But what are you gonna do? You're older, and you were a Beatle. You ain't gonna do nothing bigger than that.
Right. No, that's tough to top. But I'm convinced there's more danger to the Beatles. I mean, obviously they just for mainstream rock and roll totally just stretched what you could do, especially post 66, 67.
Yeah, after they stopped playing live. 66 was their last show. Yeah. Candlestick, San Fran. Which is cool. Like, they just imagine that you walk off stage and go, that's it, we're never playing live again. That's got to be the weirdest thing ever. Yeah. You're a band, but you don't play live. And I don't even know how they played live because you could not hear yourself at all. I mean, they had the shittiest equipment, They had great guitars and stuff, but back then, those PAs and stuff, you couldn't hear shit.
Oh, yeah. If you see, like, footage from, like, Shea Stadium or even Candlestick, like, yeah, you can't hear anything. And that's, I think, why they stopped doing it.
Yeah, it was just, like, useless,
yeah.
That would have been badass if they went out and did, like, stuff from, like, Yellow Submarine later or something, I got into like Jellyfish later. You into that band Jellyfish?
I don't know Jellyfish.
Check them out, dude. Yeah. You'll love them. But they're heavy Beatles kind of guys. And they're just, you could imagine the Beatles going out and doing that shit live would be crazy,
I've never even thought too much about that. But the fact that like you can't find a ton of like footage, obviously, of them just doing live shows. I mean, imagine how insane if they did like a small club tour in 68. How fucking weird. And
they never played again. They did that rooftop concert on Get Back, but they just didn't play live, which to me, I played music for 25 years. Playing live is the fucking juice, man. Yeah. Getting on that stage, but, I can understand it's just too big, Yeah. It's like useless. But that's cool that you like good music. Usually people that like good music like good comedy. You notice that?
I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
For sure.
Because when we're in that hallway at the Improv, you can talk music, you can talk movies, and you can talk comedy. And if they're into the same shit, you're going to get along, Oh,
yeah, for sure.
You get pretty beat up in that hallway, people going, hey, man, why don't you book me? You had any guys that were dicks?
Oh, of course. Generally, most people are really cool.
Right.
And there's some nights where I just like have to just get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, because you're in the fucking hot box.
Yeah.
And guys every week, it cracks me up, guys that think that like, I love this one. I'm funnier than that guy. It's like,
Well, and that's a part of the craziness of my job too, is not even the craziness, but having people understand like, because, when I look at those lineups, like there are definitely lineups I see that I can't take responsibility for that. Like that show got booked, out of my power.
Right.
And people assume that the people on that show, I booked them. And like, because there's people that don't get up often that are better than some people that get up.
Right.
By powers that are out of my control.
Do you find, I find though, a lot of times that guys that don't get up, it's totally their fault.
A lot of them. And this is like, the advice I would give to anyone is just be fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like when I'm looking through 500 names to book 4 spots in a week, I'm going to pick 4 guys that are fucking cool.
Yeah.
When it comes down to like, all right, here's the 15 most talented, biggest names I can pull from, I'm always going to go with the person that's fucking always been nice and cool and gracious and, for the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't really you're not going to get anywhere being a dick.
And
you just burn it up right away.
Yeah. A few people have the talent that can kind of supersede how they act around other people.
Yeah.
But even them, like, fuck them. Like, I'm always about, it's a people business, and it always behooves you. And it's another, like, a bit of advice, too, is, like, when I was just working the lab, and before when I first got hired, the first month, they just wanted to get me kind of acquainted with the Improv.
Right.
They had me work in, like, the box office. They had me work in...
So you saw people that did like in their true colors.
Yeah, I saw just for a month. They didn't know that one day I'd be booking the lab.
That's right.
They didn't know that one day after that I'd be booking the main room, and just to see how much their tune changed. And it is a true colors, and I believe in everyone has the capacity to change and grow, and so whatever. But at the end of the day, just fucking be cool to everyone, because especially in this industry,
you don't know who's going to be. Like I said. You could hate someone and then one day walk in an audition and that fucker's like one of the people in the room. And you're going, oh, fuck. You're done.
Totally. And you shouldn't do it, obviously, for any reason other than that's just, I think, the best way to live. And we're all people and we're all going through our same struggles. And so just fucking be cool. And I think it's that easy.
I wanted to talk to that. I know you got to go. Let's a real quick touch on this. You got this website here. Immaculatize. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
I was looking at it a little bit, and it's like I get into different stuff. It was interesting. I was reading because you said that you had become in a dark hole. Mm-hmm. You'd gotten fat. You were stressed out, and you were depressed and stuff. And then you did a 30-day cleanse, which a lot of guys do, and they get some poisons out of them, and they get. They revitalize and stuff, you know. I got a good friend, Ross Robinson. He's a producer, and he's really positive thinking. Not in the Brody way of positive thinking, but he really is a guy. Like I could be like I'm trying to fix myself. Like lately I do a lot of that Access TV and like they'll have Taylor Swift and I'll be like, fuck her, you know, and now I'm trying to change it to more where instead of saying fuck her, I'm going to say, you know what? I really like AC/DC. You know what I mean?
For
like
sure.
I'm trying to gravitate towards some positivity, but I don't want to lose the edge in my comedy. You know what I mean? Because I do think that people suck on a general basis, and I want to get out of that.
Well, it depends on what. To me, like, you know, that's what art is. It's trying to communicate something. And you know, to quote one of my favorite books, it's called Lynchpin. But you know, art is a gift that you give someone to change them. So it comes down to intent, you know, like you can still fucking talk shit.
Yeah.
And you're not going to lose your edge if what you're trying to communicate, there's a positive spin to it. You know, and I'm less of a fan of just like shit talking for the sake of it.
Right.
Because I don't think that puts out, you know, positivity
negative,
into the world.
yeah.
But, you know, making fun of Kim Kardashian to make a point about today's culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, you know, that there's that can be art.
I do see CK doing that a lot. He is, he'll shit on someone, but he'll say, come on, man, don't be a shithead.
Right.
Which I start to understand. It's hard, you know. But what is Immaculatize? Like, it's a website, and it's like kind of a positive energy website or whatever. First of all, you did the cleanse and 30-day cleanse. That's fucking hard, right?
It is.
What were you doing? Eating a bunch of shit?
Well, I had come to a point in my life, and I'm 36 now, but when I was 32, 33, where, you know, I'd been pursuing comedy. I was trying to make this life as an artist, and just kind of that wake-up call that I think a lot of people, if you don't have success by a certain age, you're like, oh shit, I'm 32 now or 33 or whatever it was, and what am I really doing? What am I really going for? And it was kind of the wake-up call, and, you know, it was the end of a 7-year relationship I had been in, and I was at this major crossroads, and I think a lot of artists go through that. And so I ended up moving back in with my parents. And so on top of everything else, here I am, like a 33-year-old man, like living with my parents. And I have no regrets. In fact, I wouldn't be where I am today without having gone through that. And so, and I don't think there's any shame in taking those steps.
No, man, you got to pick yourself up.
Exactly.
It's like human.
And I've always been into like positivity shit. You know, I've always read these books, and, you know, since I was 18, 19, I was a religious studies major in college. But I noticed that there was no sort of sense of humor about it. Like, there's definitely friends I can be like, let's talk about Think and Grow Rich or fucking The Secret or, you know, these books. But, you know, especially my hipster ass friends, like, you know, a lot of them are like, you bring that shit up and they're like, dude, not interested.
Yeah.
And you're fucking hippie.
Yeah. They're like, dude, Coachella.
Exactly. But I've loved it. And I was like, there's got to be a way to talk about these things in a way where there's some self-deprecation and there's a sense of humor about it.
Right.
So essentially, starting with, you know, I was like, all right, I got to turn my life around. And so I cut out, stopped smoking cigarettes, stopped drinking, stopped eating anything with sugar in it, tried to meditate every day. And so I did all these things, but then I started talking about on my podcast. I do it's called The Long Shot, and I do it with a comedian named Eddie Pepitone, Sean Conroy, and Amber Kenny.
And where do you find that, real quick?
Or if you go to thelongshotpodcast.com,
cool.
We're on iTunes and All Things Comedy Podcast Network.
Oh, you're on All Things Comedy? That's Bill Burr's, right?
Yeah, Bill Burr, Al Madrigal. It's a great network. Yeah. But I started talking about these things and my turnaround and all these things on the podcast, and people started emailing me, and they're like very interested in it. They're like, you should do a blog, and you should talk about these things on the podcast more. And so I did that, created a Facebook group. I was really gung-ho about it. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm putting on.
Yeah, you're going to be the new guru.
Yeah. And so it's kind of tapered off a little bit. As far as, you know, just the energy I have is all going to the improv and some other projects. But there's a thriving Facebook group. And long story short, you know, it's what it was 3 years ago is just shifted. And now it's just basically a creative community that exists trying to, you know, where people can talk about their creative, you know, issues. Not that sounds shitty, but like, you know, if people are going through their things or they're trying to work on themselves, they can talk
like
about
some depression in the biz. I mean, you get depressed in the biz, you
For
know?
sure.
But things happen and you're going, man, it's just not happening for me, you know, and you do need some soundboard.
Yeah, but to have a soundboard of people that aren't going to be like, you know, cleanse your chakras and fucking light some incense, and like, it's actual artists from around the country, and like comedians, a lot of comedians, and a lot of just, you know, graphic designers and people that it's just relatable.
Right.
You know, it's not going to be too hippy dippy. It's just going to be, I mean, essentially the Facebook group at this point is people posting their favorite songs.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, you know, whatever it is, it's cool. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot of negative energy in those comedy clubs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it. You walk in, you're like, oh, fuck, you know? And you gotta wade through it. A lot of comics like me, I live alone. I don't have anyone. So if you don't have anybody to talk to, you can get fucking dark, you know?
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of like the other side of being an artist and like wanting to do that is like, you know, money is tough. And
yeah, it's tough.
You know, either you make it and there's not a lot of in between. Like,
yep. That's right, man. I mean, like tonight, I'm going to go fucking drive 100 miles for $50. You know, but I need that $50.
No, of course.
It's going to cost me 20 to make 50.
Right.
But what are you going to do? You know, if I did it for money, I would have been out fucking 30 years ago.
Totally.
Where can we find the website? What is it? It's immaculatize.com?
Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to be actually doing a lot of changes to the site and kind of updating it because since that started almost 3 years ago, you know, I've definitely changed and evolved. But I really do want to have a forum for artists. Like, this is not easy. This is a really tough road. And and you stick with it because you love it and you're passionate about it. But there's always going to be ups and downs. And I want to impart, you know, I'm still, you know, I've definitely come a long way, but there's a lot further I want to climb too.
Yeah, I hear you.
But to have a place where at least I can talk about the things that are working for me, from just having a positive attitude and being passionate, you know, working hard in spite of, you know, not getting paid what I want along the way. And,
yeah. And I've got two of those things. I'm working hard and I'm passionate. I just got to get the positive attitude.
Yeah, well, I think you're on your way.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm just on and off. You know what I mean? And I know it. You know what I mean? It's tough, man. You're fucking working and people are getting stuff and you're going, fuck, they got that. You know, people are going to get shit. What are you going to do? I understand. I just want to work. That's all I want. Right. Some people want to be famous, and those are the people I can't fucking stand. They don't care about comedy. I just want to do this comedy for a minute so I can get into movies and TV. Right. And those are the guys they make my fucking skin crawl. You know what I mean? Because I love doing comedy. I loved playing music. To me, I've been a performer all my life. Mm-hmm. So if I can't do it, I start to get fucking crazy. Well, if I don't get to perform.
I think it comes down to, again, like connection. And that's your number one way of connecting with other people. Yeah. Is being on stage. And so, yeah, like just like anything else, like if you're not getting that, you're going to feel withdrawals. And
it's true.
And the best comedians go through that. And that when you see, I mean, again, Louis C.K., like, and watching him the last year, because he's performed at the Improv.
Like I've seen all those shows.
And to see, he doesn't need to do that.
Nope.
What was fascinating
the guy made $10 million last year. Actually, I think he made $40 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But to see his set, when I forget, don't quote me on these months, but when he came in April and watched his full set, then to see him come back, you know, in September, and to see that 30% of that first set was gone, and see like, and he killed, by the way.
Unbelievable.
He killed
every time.
He could have just done that, been fine, but he's that much of an artist like that. He wants to find the quickest way to connect with an audience.
Yeah.
And that's
cut the fat, push the envelope, keep right, and see where you're fucking gonna go.
Yeah. But you know, and as soon as he left the Improv last time he was there, he went up to the store. And
I saw that show too.
And that's insane to me. Like,
he did about 4 hours of comedy that night. 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know, people don't understand. I do 30 minutes and I'm like, fuck. 4 hours. And hours are so hard to do. Like after the first 20 minutes, yeah, okay, cool. Now what?
Right.
You know? I don't know. But fuck, man, I'm glad you came by.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I love you, man. I love what you're doing at the place. For real, man. I go there now all the time. I love the Hollywood Improv. People go out there, support it, and don't bug them for spots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where can we find you? You got the podcast on all things comedy. Mm-hmm. You got the website.
And it's, JAMIEFLAM.com. I got other productions and stuff I'm working on.
Yeah, you got some good shit going, man.
But right now I'm focused, my main thing is just continue to build, what's going on at the Improv. And it's always great having you there.
That's great, man. Thanks for coming by. And then audience, if you're listening, I'll keep you informed on what's going on there, if they do Umami Burger or not, whatever. Also, write a review down there on iTunes. Tell us that you like us, man. That helps. And thanks for tuning in. You guys rock. This is Dean Delray on Let There Be Talk. See you guys.